The new CEO of Lyft, David Risher, just made a very bold move. You could see right away, Lyft CEO buys $1.15 million of company stock, quote unquote, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. Risher buys 100,000 shares of Lyft. Gotta be honest, in some ways I respect it. In other ways I'm like, it's kind of a bold move, but I think that's a big thing. You can see right here, David Risher has bought more than $1 million worth of the company's stock, underscoring his confidence in his plans to turn around the rideshare company. In a weird way, although this is more of like, I think, a stock-ish style article. Remember, like I've said in other videos, with especially the Uber versus Lyft battle, the Uber Lyft stock has a huge indicator of how the companies are doing, and especially how much money you can make as a driver, or even which app maybe you should turn on and use when driving. Going down here, the CEO took over this year to help the company drive down costs, lower rider fares, and ultimately boost its market share. Told Fox Business that's the best investments he could have made. I mean, I think a good analogy is, like, say if someone like built an airplane, right? And you're not sure if this airplane is going to be the best airplane in terms of it flying super high or crashing. It's like that person saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to sit in the airplane because I'm that dedicated to making sure, or I'm that dedicated and confident that this airplane is going to be a good airplane. I guess in a unique sense. This is what he said about Lyft. I expect this to be very successful. I'm putting my money where my mouth is because I want people to understand I have real skin in the game. I mean, that's over $1 million that he has in it now. I want to see this company succeed. He knows full well, I hate this kind of banner that keeps popping down. He knows full well the challenge that lies ahead as a rideshare company, which operates solely in North America, by the way, mainly United States and Canada. That's it. They've not really explored any other markets. Maybe they will. I've done a video about that, but they basically, right now, Lyft is trying to claw back its market share from rival Uber. He remains confident about the company's future, given how strong he says his team is, as well as reports from its latest earnings report. Now, this is true. Among the drivers that use both apps, and I think this is very important, the preference for Lyft has shot up 25% since the last fiscal quarter in 2022, according to the company's earnings report. I do have mixed feelings about this. I'll talk about that, my recap at the end of this, because I was just in Denver, Colorado. I got some very unique perspectives from drivers in Denver. So I will say that, right? Like any other place in America, or in this case, Canada too, there is a correlation in preference to more drivers using the platform. However, both active drivers and riders each reached multi-year highs, which are significant growth indicators. That means that all of our customers are liking it, which is a really good predictor of the future. So it seems like right now they have kind of the stock right here. It seems like things are going up. These results happened faster than they could have hoped. I mean, he did make a lot of bold moves like I talked about in a lot of other videos in terms of him laying off over 1,000 people, getting rid of Lyft Shared. He did say he was going to get rid of Lyft Lux, but I think he took that back. But he's been doing a lot of different things, right? He says that he's a former Amazon executive, in case you didn't know, by the way. He noted that the team you have is critical. I'm always as good as my team, and I came in with high hopes. So obviously talking about all these different things, in terms of the company also shifted some people into new jobs, like I said, all these different things that he's doing. Going down here, might as well finish off with this. During the second quarter, Lyft's revenue reached just north of $1 billion, up 3% year over year. Meanwhile, the revenue it brought in for each of its nearly 21.5 million active riders, that's pretty big, in the 3-month period came at about $47.51, a decline of roughly 4.8%, not good, from the last quarter from the same quarter last year. By comparison, and this is where things get tricky, Uber's revenue hit $9.2 billion. So look at that. 1 billion versus 9.2. So looking at the Uber Lyft battle, not good. And it's up 14% over year as opposed to 3, right? 6 million drivers, right? And it's kind of interesting that they mentioned 6 million drivers and as opposed to not mentioning the drivers here. And they earned a record 15.1 billion during the quarter. So unfortunately, Uber is still insanely on top when it comes to Lyft and continuing to grow at a rapid rate. Now, I know I haven't posted a video in a while. I was just traveling for 3 weeks. I was in Toronto for a bachelor party, then went to Colorado. I was in Denver, then went to Dillon, Colorado to see an artist called Pretty Lights. Phenomenal artist, by the way, insane performance. But anyway, jumping to this video, the only video I posted recently was talking about the quote-unquote scam that was happening with Lyft, and talking about Lyft. Not only did that driver mention the scam that's going on, but I talked to a lot of drivers in Colorado. I always interview drivers when I travel. about Lyft, because what I was told from a lot of people in Denver, Colorado, is that when it comes to Uber versus Lyft, Lyft is typically the more popular app, both for drivers and riders, right? That's something I heard through the grapevine a lot. And what's interesting is when I talked to a lot of these drivers, they said that Lyft has kind of fallen off a tremendous amount, that they used to do surge pricing, then they took that away in Denver. Now keep in mind, every city is different, and it's very unique because I feel like when it comes to Lyft, I've seen the perspectives on Lyft get more and more polarizing. There are some drivers who said, look, I'm not going to drive for Lyft anymore. Like I said in Denver, they took away apparently surge pricing. All these bonuses that you used to have in Denver for Lyft, they took away, I think because of what's going on and them trying to kind of get back and get their head above water, so to speak. When it comes to other cities though, I've talked to a lot of drivers who say, hey, it's never been a better time to be a Lyft driver because of all these amazing incentives they're kind of throwing out right now and initiatives for drivers to get out there because they're really trying to get more drivers on the road, et cetera, et cetera. It is kind of tough to say because I have mentioned in so many other videos the whole battle of Uber versus Lyft, what Lyft is doing now. I will say, I got to give David Risher credit. This is a bold move. You know, I think that it's his way, like I use it with that kind of plain analogy of him saying, look, I am in this. If this ship sinks, I'm going down with it, so to speak. So I do kind of appreciate and respect that I feel like, although sometimes he's made some questionable moves, there's definitely, no one's perfect, right? There's some pros and cons. I do kind of respect the fact that he seems like he really, really cares and really wants Lyft to succeed, as do I. And like I mentioned in other videos, they've done surveys. Most drivers and riders prefer Lyft over Uber. However, it's no question the Uber market share, the stocks, the revenue, Uber's continuing to increase every quarter. And it's, I think, a big question of, as Uber continues to pull away from Lyft at a rapid rate, what is going to happen in the future? Now, obviously, this is tough to say. I am hoping Lyft kind of comes out on top, though, and continues to kind of at least be a good rival with Uber, because back in the day, they were pretty similar, right? Obviously, I think Uber's still always been on top, but they were pretty close. Now, though, especially post-pandemic, even though it's been a while since the pandemic ended, whenever it ended, I'm not sure, it seems like things have not been doing that well. Granted, I think that Lyft is slowly kind of starting to pick up steam a lot. Everything David Risher is doing when it comes to the company CEO is doing pretty well, and I gotta give him a lot of credit. Like I said, especially doing this move, very bold move. But it is interesting, and I'm very curious to see where Lyft will go from here when it comes to a lot of the drivers, especially those watching this video. I have said in other videos, I think there's never been a better time to be, one, a Lyft driver, but two, even if you are a Lyft driver, to test it out more. And I think the biggest reason why is the companies right now trying so many different things to get, like I said, more drivers on the road and more riders and cars. It's very interesting for me because as someone who takes Ubers and Lyfts all the time, I typically do that thing when I go out. Is Uber cheaper or Lyft cheaper? One, saves me money, but two, it is very interesting sometimes for me from an analytical perspective, doing all these videos, reading all these articles. I do a lot of research for these videos, seeing kind of what's going on when it comes to just the pure math. And I gotta be honest, it's very apparent that Lyft, I'd say 90% of the time, maybe I'll dial that down, maybe 75% of the time, Lyft is cheaper than Uber. And the prices for me taking Lyfts now has been significantly cheaper now than it was before David Risher became CEO. So that's definitely apparent. And in addition, I've talked to a lot of drivers who are saying, look, I'm actually making more money now with Lyft. Granted, it does depend upon area to area, right? When it comes to a lot of the drivers in Denver, for example, like I said, a lot of them are not liking Lyft because they say they're making less money now after the CEO got put into place. I've talked to a lot of drivers, though, like I just mentioned, in other areas who say they're making more money now. So I do want to say for a lot of the drivers out there, although this seems kind of random, being like, why would I care that the Lyft CEO spent $1.15 million on Lyft stock? Why do I care, right? It cares because as things continue down the line, this affects your bank account. It affects how much money you can make. And especially when it comes to companies like Lyft and Uber, things really do kind of start at the top and kind of trickle down. Not talking about like trickle down economy or anything like that or whatever, but like things do kind of trickle down where it's like, depending on what the CEOs are doing and the stock price and everything, really at the end of the day, in terms of as the equations go, equals the amount of money you can make per ride, and if it's even worth the drive for Lyft, Uber. I do think this is a very bold move, and like I said, after interviewing a lot of drivers on this channel, reading the comments, which I try to keep up with as best as I can because there's a lot, and talking to drivers overall, both online and offline, it seems like that Lyft right now is in this unique position where they're trying out a lot of different things, especially in a lot of different markets and a lot of different cities. And I gotta be honest, it's cool to see that Lyft is now starting to pull ahead. I remember when I first did that video about David Risher a while ago, becoming the new CEO and all the things he's doing, everyone was kind of like in a weird predicament of like, what is this gonna work out or not? What is this guy doing? Is this worth it or not? And my perspective, I think, in the beginning was maybe take a step back from Lyft. Let's see what he's got. Let's see what's going to happen. Maybe Uber right now is going to be the better app. I mean, I always suggest sign up with both apps, like I mentioned, try for both, see which one's going to pay more money. But now, given the testing that Lyft is doing, that can equal way more money in your pocket. Granted, it does depend upon the area, but David Risher's committed. And whether or not, you're for Lyft or against Lyft, I do respect his kind of skin in the game, as he says, putting his money where his mouth is. Things could be looking really good for Lyft as they're continuing to look good for Lyft. And especially when it comes to you and all the drivers watching these videos and everything, I'm telling you, get out there and at least test out Lyft. It could be the situation like Denver that you don't make as much money and you stick with Uber. That could be the case. But especially with everything he's doing, it could be the case that it could be never a better time, depending on the area, it could be never a better time to be a Lyft driver.